Hey guys, what's up? We're here with another little history lesson. It seems like the one yesterday was really well received, so I figured why not? I'll give it a go for another few at least. I don't really have like plans besides just going day by day. Maybe be a little mini series. Maybe I'll go more in depth. I don't know quite yet, but I do know people are interested in seeing my perspective, and I've been around for a while now, all the way dating back to Black and White One. So let's have at it. First and foremost, it's worth noting that Landorus-T did not come out when Black and White 1 came out. In fact, the Therian forms came out all the way back in Black and White 2. So Landorus-T didn't actually exist for the first, well over half of Black and White, um, pretty much. Um, Alternatively, though, Lander's Eye was actually free, and during Black White 1, I'll include this, but I'm not going to go through a set. During Black and White 1, people used Landorus Incarnate with Sand Force, because Sheer Force didn't get released until Black White 2. And with Sand Force, it was a really threatening Pokemon. In fact, it adapted where people initially used Scarf a lot, then they started using, so that's kind of similar to Landorus T, but a lot of them with like Expert Belt, Hidden Power Ice, and sometimes even Smackdown for Skarmory, and Roden Wash. It was really cool. Um, I even used the Yachi barrier variant on the ladder a lot, which is really good for opposing variants of Landorus Eye. Also, it played similarly to Expert Belt, but it was able to check opposing ones and like random ice beams, like single like Slowbro, Politoed, etc. And yeah, Smackdown for Skarmory. Sand Force was great, and then Sheer Force got released, and it was absolutely ridiculous in early Black White 2, maybe Black White 2, I'm not sure, but it did get banned. I think it was a suspect, not a quick ban, but I was more of a Pokemon Online player at that point in time. So I did know the metagame well. I didn't really know the history of Smogon bans as well. I'm not as well versed in that until like later on in Black White 2 when the whole Keldeo stuff happened, Tornadus-T, etc. But I digress. Let's get back into Landorus-T, which actually did start out as a Pokemon in OU, which never got banned or anything like that. And it actually wasn't the best Pokemon to start off with. Tornadus T obviously overshadowed it quite a bit, which eventually got banned. I mean, Thundurus T had its moments as well in early days, but Landorus T was just kind of the stable force of definitely an OU viable Pokemon, but nothing particularly amazing. Um, People really didn't know what to make of it at first. It was clearly very strong. In fact, I remember during the first days of using it, my initial idea was, okay, I'm gonna throw a choice band on this shit, and it's gonna break through everything. And I remember in my first battle with it against a special defensive Gastrodon, I did over half with a U-turn, and that was funny. That was kind of like anything goes sort of Black White 2 OU metagame on the ladder at that point in time. But soon enough, people kind of found some standards, and while it was not a top tier Pokemon, it definitely started seeing a lot of usage. And initially, people used this set quite a bit, just a standard Stealth Rock variant, but all of them hit 264, 265 speed. I think that might actually still be part of the analysis, but basically, that helped outrun plus speed Breloom, plus speed Politoed, Adamant Dragonite, Adamant Mamoswine if that really came into play, and random other things like Modest Chandelure. And that speed tier was actually kind of more relevant back then than it was now because Technician Balloon was far more common, and therefore people even started using plus speed on it for opposing ones. And a Dragonite was far more in metagame than it is now. I might actually do a video on Dragonite just 'cause it's evolved so much over the years itself. But that aside, this was a really good set. It was actually not as great as it is now, and there's kind of I'm gonna get back to it again later, as you'll see, in a different capacity, but not as good as it is now because Skarmory was all over the place, but it was still quite good. And in this metagame, it was a bit more spike centric, a bit less spike centric than right now, all the way back in Black and White too. Um, so it didn't mind giving up spikes to Skarmory as much, especially with there being things like just more spinning versatility. Magnezone ran choice sets, so it was kind of less confined, if that makes sense. And on top of that, a lot of builds just were more naturally well equipped for spikes. And then random things like Gothitelle would be around, which a lot of the European players actually used back during this time, in my opinion. Especially the French. I know Remedy had quite an affinity for it himself. But yeah, looking at it here, I'd say that Landers T kind of started off with this, and then people started like, okay, wait, it's so strong, it has 145 attacks, so I also want to take advantage of that. And a lot of people during the early days used Rock Polish, some with Hidden Power Ice. Double Dance, I saw a lot of usage on the ladder on PO. Truth be told, in Smogon tournaments, I think it might have had a bit more versatility. I'm sure we saw some gems and some Yachi berries and whatnot. But then Black White 2 came to an end, and people still use this, that's for sure. Um, these sets were solid, but during XY itself, Choice Scarf Landorus-T really started being used a ton. And it's funny because it was used a little bit here and there in Black White, but it never really took off as like that overarching standard. But in XY, it was so good. It was so good in that kind of new metagame. People were like, wait, it might actually be good in Black White as well. And then all of a sudden, during like Smog Tour 17, maybe Smog Tour 16 to probably 17, probably Smog Tour like 17 to 20, this shit like took over the usage of Landers completely. It became overwhelmingly good. It was ridiculous. Um, and this is the headliner. It was always offensive scarf. Stone Age was seeing far more usage than any alternative. This set pretty much was used a ton. Plus speed, no real alternatives were looked into at the time. It was great. It was superb. It was bordering staple status on Sand Balance. Scarf Chomp had taken a hit over those years. And yeah, it was just really good. And there was no getting around that. For years and years and years, that was the case. And then all of a sudden, McMegan came around and unleashed this fighting gem set probably a bit over 3 years ago. Let's say 4 years ago. This is probably during late Gen 6 or very early Gen 7. I'm going with late Gen 6 though. And not only did he use it to quite great success, but then I actually had it on a couple teams. One most notably is this dual ground team, which if I ever go through like classic teams, Black White OU, I would consider it one of them. I've won a Smog Tour game with it, an SPL game with it. Other people have won SPL games with it. It's won multiple Smog on tours. It's done very well in Black White Cup. But there are so many teams like that, though, dual ground, where you use this set to kind of like lure in things like Skarmory and take them out, Rotom W take them out. Gliscor gets hit by Hidden Power Ice. It's so hard to check a Swords Dance plus Hidden Power Ice Landorus-T, but then when you have plus two superpower with Fighting Gems, also clock things like Skarmory or Rotom Wash in one hit after rocks, then you're sitting pretty. Um, but yeah, this set really, it never became a full-on standard so much. It was just always a really nasty option that people had to learn to respect in black-white games. And this was McMegan's creation. I take partial credit for popularizing it in the aftermath, but it was completely his creation. He brought it on the scene, and I spammed the shit out of it, and so did a couple others. And it's just a really good set. But Scarf, of course, was always more common. But as the metagame developed, we saw Excadrill get free, a couple other things as well, such as opposing Landorus, Gliscor, and you just wanted some bulk on it. So therefore, people just ran all sorts of spread. This is a spread that I've been running as of late. Um, it does all sorts of things. It has HP plus special defense to help live opposing hidden power ices from some things. It has speed to outrun Adamant, Karen Black if it ever runs Scarf or I get knocked off. And then also can outrun plus one Gyarados, plus one Dragonite. I'm also fine if I get knocked off. Again, random shit like Chandelure, Lucario, you name it. It all factors in. Another thing is it outruns opposing Adamant Landorus because some Scarf variants aren't running plus speed anymore, and also Adamant Excadrill, which is huge. Then all Polytoad and Bloom, of course, as well. And then you still have a ton of attack, and the defense helps check things like Excadrill. Even can kind of stomach a hit against Dracagon as well if need be. Hidden Power Ice damage is also bolstered by that special attack. I think it's specifically for against opposing Landorus-T, and then against a specific Gliscor spread that an opponent was using. But yeah, spreads like these, where honestly you could justify so many different little investments and intricacies being changed here and there. You notice it's kind of just a shift in the way Scarf's used. Before it was more of an offensive wrecking ball that could be a pivot, but now it's like more of a full-on pivot where the offensive damage output is great because the 145 attack is absolutely outstanding, but at the same time you're able to maintain a certain defensive presence, which is just great, and it really bolsters the team's design because it can get in and out, and not only that, but it can also let other things get in and out thanks to U-turn being so great as well. So yeah, that's worth noting. And finally, nowadays we're seeing the resurgence of this variant, the Stealth Rock variant on Landorus. And nowadays, personally, I actually use a slower spread because the bulk is so nasty. As drill is so common. The score is getting up there in usage. Bloom, being able to check that is huge. But a lot of people are using a spread with like max speed. Specifically, I know Soulwind and Pearl and BKC have all advocated for / used a really fast Stealth Rock variant. So that's worth noting. I'm not going to personally edit this because this is just a spread I just drew from my SPL teams. But yeah, you probably just go max speed and skip out on the physical defense. It's completely fine. It outruns a whole assortment of things I mentioned before, assuming they're not scarfed, and that's just great. It does a ton. But yeah, it's worth noting also that You've seen a couple other like oddball sets, like you can see Yachi Berry, you can see Rock Helmet. EO and I have both used a set with Protectiles leftovers if you find another rocker. And that helps in the long haul with taking things like Iron Head from Excadrill, Outrage from Scarf Guard Chomp, even Facades or Ice Tanks from Gliscor, as well as checking Bloom. It means you aren't compressed enough where you have to rock, and you can protect to scout things out on rain, or just to gain leftovers in any given turn. It's really cool. On top of that, there's also other niche variants that were used a bit more during the XY or S metagame of Black and White, of course, with like Gravity, which could be really cool. But on those teams, you really need to fit something like Tangrowth, Slowbro, maybe even Milotic, although that's kind of cutting it close, because opposing Earthquakes are going to be devastating to your team. So if you're packing something like Skarmory, then you're going to get clocked by your Earthquakes. Or Landorus is your main Earthquake check, you're going to get clocked by those Earthquakes with Gravity up. So yeah, you kind of have to be really careful with how you synergize those teams. On top of that, I'd say that Landorus has went from being A minus tier Pokemon way back when, and then it shot up to A plus during the XY race when Scarf became really common. And Fighting Gem helped maintain some versatility, so it never got stale. And then I'd say within the last year, it's become an S tier Pokemon, and now it's probably the second or third best Pokemon in the tier. Latios obviously being first, but then Landorus-T is right up there with Ferrothorn and Tyranitar, and arguably Politoed, although I'd say Politoed's a tier behind. And things like Garchomp has fallen off a bit, and Excadrill has now kind of stabilized where it's definitely a superb Pokemon, but Landorus-T is still the top dog among the ground types, and it's just phenomenal what it can do. You've seen me use it in so many SPL games recently. You've seen me commentate about it in so many other games, so I suppose that the usage is just a testament to how viable it truly is, and I hope that you guys can draw enough conclusions off of that to see how great it can be and all of the things it can do. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. This one was probably a bit more brief than the last one, but excuse me. Went through all the sets. If you guys have any questions about like why things were used or like what provoked it that maybe I didn't cover, I'd love to give you guys more detail or maybe even link some replays just to show like specific examples. But for now, I just hope I touched on all the major sets. I definitely want to focus on the other types of content to bring out as well, but I figure getting these up for like 10, 15 minutes a day could be really cool. Maybe I'll even give you guys a second later today, depending on what I got going on and how SPL goes, and how Spector goes, and whatnot. I'm not playing tour today, but definitely be following it because I'm stuck in my house, so why not? But anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed. This is Finch. Peace.